Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to WriterHouse and the 27th 100,000 Poets for Change global event. Thank you for making the time and the trip and bringing your presence and your poetry here. This is one of my most favorite events I've ever experienced because it bridges communities internationally. It was originally started in 2011. Two poets, then in California, now in Tallahassee. They moved to Tallahassee just a couple months before hurricane season. They sent invitations to 90 poets in 100 countries by email. And that's when the event got started. And every year it has grown. It's now a 501c3 organization. And let me introduce myself. Some of you may not know that I'm Pauline, Lazaron, and it's my joy and honor to be your 100,000 Poets for Change coordinator. I'm also a WriterHouse member and volunteer. And we have, I think almost everybody is here who signed up to read. We have a really terrific community that's gathered here today. And that is one of the main reasons this event was started. The idea was to bring poets and musicians and creative folks together internationally and create an opportunity for people to talk about the world that they want to live. What do they want for their location in which they're living, and also for the world at large. And that's what the original intent was. And the response was so great that it's continued every year. So we are reading today in solidarity with people all around the world. There are a number of locations in India. There are mimes who are performing in Cairo, Egypt. The event, after the first year, it expanded to include performing artists of all kinds, as well as musicians of all kinds. So if you look at the information, the organization has all of the flyers that are from the different locations located on their Facebook page, and you can see there's just a really diverse range of what's being offered. And that's another wonderful aspect of the event. Each location plans what they're doing. So New Orleans, the coordinator there was one of the people who contacted me after August the 12th here. To check in and see how things were going, but also to initiate a bridge and a conversation between our communities. They're actually hosting a one-day retreat event that begins and ends with poetry, and they're bringing in different people from the community to talk about ways of coping with stress and coping with change, and offering a real wide range of activities. So there's no limit, as you know, to what poets can come up with. So welcome. And Tom, there's some folks leaving the class I think are ready to go. Although you all are welcome to stay. So, a couple of quick announcements before we jump in to our time together for reading. Bathrooms are located here. We're going to, because we're a pretty big group of readers, we'll take a couple of quick breaks, and you're invited to stay if you can afterwards to get to know each other better, because that's really why we're here also. The order in which you read is by draw, and this is my kitchen calendar, which is today performing the role of being the calendar of collaboration. So I will be drawing your names, and that means we all get the fun and the surprise of who reads when. And then, okay, there's a small wooden boulder. Where is the bowl? There it is, Mariana, thank you. Solidarity. Yes, this, my friends, is the bowl of solidarity. And in this bowl are folded pieces of paper. And on the pieces of paper are the names of two locations globally that are also hosting 100,000 Poets for Change events. So readers, I invite you to draw a piece of paper from the bowl as you come up to the podium. And in whatever way you choose, acknowledge those two communities. You can simply read the names of the communities or say whatever you want to say. And we're going to start with each person reading for 5 minutes. And we'll make a quick go around the room to introduce ourselves and say, where have we come from today? I also have, this is a jar of water from over 360 locations and collections globally. A lot I've collected and shared with other people who facilitate water blessings. So there's water in here from Tibet. Yeah, I told you. Let's talk afterwards. I'll send you a bottle. There's water in here from the Danube, from the Hudson River in New York State. There's water from California, from the French Broad River in Asheville. There's water from the spring at that cave in Henderson County, North Carolina, from the Shenandoah River. And the water had 250 waters were blessed in ceremony in North Carolina last year, and I received a bottle back. I sent set water from 7 locations, received a bottle back from combined 250, and I just continue to add to it, including on August 12th, towards the end of the day, there was a rainstorm and a rainbow also at the same time. So I collected water with the light of the rainbow at the same time. Okay, so you can, whatever way you choose, to say thank you to the water, acknowledge it, and I'll be passing the water on and also giving back some to a moving body of water on the Pauline. So, great. I also would like to acknowledge and thank WriterHouse for making this space available to us. And I encourage you, if you're not a WriterHouse member, to consider that. The membership is $50 a year, and it provides a discount on classes. And WriterHouse was started by 7 writers who had met in writing workshops who really liked the community aspect. And they were originally moving from coffee shop to coffee shop and said, let's start an organization, and they did. So and we are very fortunate tonight. We have a member of the WriterHouse board with us, Patsy. Will you raise your hand? Let me know Patsy. Patsy is like this, like this. Like this. Patsy's with us today. So there are orange brochures on the table at the back of the room, which gives information about the fall classes. So you're welcome to take that, and I'm happy to answer questions if you have any. Also, WriterHouse is collaborating with other communities that are offering a program called Right to Heal. You can find out information about that on the WriterHouse website. And also, if you have writing that would be related to that, you can send to the theme of that project. You can send it to WriterHouse for their consideration for publication in the newsletter. And I can share more about that one-to-one if you would like when we take a break. So let the fun begin. The calendar of collaboration awaits. We're going to start out with each person reading for 5 minutes, and then we'll take a break. Not everybody's going to read straight through, and we'll take a little break. And then if we have time, you'll have the opportunity to read more than once. So are you ready? You. Any questions at this point? Hello, Judith. Come on in. Welcome, Judith.
It's perfect timing.
Perfect. We're just getting started. You already know the routine. Yes. Oh. One thing to Judith, wherever you want to go. Okay.
I just want to see you.
All right. So I said we would introduce ourselves. Let's do that. I'm Pauline, and I came here today from Albemarle County.
I'm Deborah. I came here today from Richmond.
Thank you, Deborah.
I'm Tom, and I came from Richmond as well.
And Tom is our phenomenal audio recorder, makes it possible for us to be archived at Stanford University. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
I'm Daniel from Richmond also.
Wow.
And I'm Michele from Richmond.
Wow.
I'm Pauline from Norfolk.
Wow. Two Paulines is a rare occasion, and both originally from Norfolk. So,
I'm Vanessa. I'm originally from Virginia Beach, but I go to UVA.
great.
Chris, coming from Lexington.
Lesley, coming from Lexington.
Carolyn, I'm from Charlottesville.
Fred from Nelson County.
Yes.
George from down the street.
Patsy, same side of the street.
I'm in the same room.
Erika, who took the street called Route 29 from Fairfax.
Hello.
And I'm Judith, I'm from over the mountain.
I'm Carol from Charlottesville.
I'm Bill. I live in Fluvanna County, which is the first one east of Albemarle. It's actually the center of Virginia. Just saying.
I'm Joanna from Richmond.
I'm John from Richmond.
Judy from Richmond.
I'm John from Charlottesville.
I'm Mike from Sugar Hollow.
Hey, Hello.
I'm Christy from Charlottesville.
I'm Mara from Floyd County, Virginia.
Mariana.
Cari from North Chesterfield County.
That's great. I didn't say your name. No, did you say your name?
Oh, yes, I did.
I didn't hear you.
I did. I said I'm Mariana from Sugar Hall.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, everybody has said their name like good little children. Right, you ready? I know this is what you're really here for. Right, and so our first reader is Erika. Woohoo! Yay, Erika.
I am reading in solidarity with Belém, Brazil, and St. Louis, Missouri. Oh, good. This time I have microphones. I'm known as a soft-spoken poet, so this helps. Athene and her soldier. Come to bed. Athene in her nightgown, sable-silvered curls tumble to the small of her back. Hands that held the shield sweetly caress his shoulders, the care of command still wrapped in those sinews. He pulls bifocal glasses with a weary hand, sigh of years whispering between his lips. He doesn't have to turn. The gray-eyed girl still stands in that cluttered place of memory, but turn he does. Ease of several lifetimes caught in tangled fingers. She has seen 1,000 generations off to war, broken souls buried in mud, but this one belongs to her. Uncle in the underworld will not have him. Oh, he knows better, Prince of Elysium, grants her folly, only a teardrop in time. And yet, the soldier chose her. Promised a waltz from a church pew bed somewhere south of Manassas, he remembers, with a smile. Her hands didn't hold a spear then, only carried candlelight and linen, dark owl on her shoulder, laughing at mortal brushes. Gray of her dress matched his gunmetal eyes. She was tired of fighting, thought she'd stanch the blood this time. Just maybe dent man's inhumanity to man that Ares loves so much. He took her home to New York's mountains, a small farm on the windswept road hard by Storm King Pass. Somehow, they always come back here, above, to the high granite above Captain Hudson's River. She would have kept him then, but he brokered a promise to let him go when years had worn his gentle face, and yes, come back if she would but wait. And so she did, passing the Great War in widow's weeds. London, 1943. He commanded boys again, 24 crews and heavy bombers. She chose to be British, proud of their stubborn defiance. He remembered her eyes, she remembered his heart. A moment for the smiles, a week for the wedding. He took her home again, crossing the Atlantic in a Queen's liner with Poseidon's blessing. She could only watch his tortured dreams because the dead slept under his pillow. She couldn't reach him when he walked the river, lulled by sirens. A fight with her sister fates she could not win. He showed up at her studio 44 years later, West Point ring knocking on the door. A potter. She threw clay all right, straight at his mirthful eyes, and then she hugged him, holding on for dear life. Tonight, her loom is settled by the window, where it's been for 150 years, to catch Apollo's light. His desk still stands in the corner, 1846 black oak and chestnut, carved from Hudson Valley. He's been writing again. 73 Easting is 25 years past. The sons of his battle chargers are in Kandahar now, and he can't reach them. She sees silver weaving his temples, knows her promise, doesn't mean she has to like it. Is this what faith means? To wait again?
Thank you, Erika. A very still. You ready? And please welcome Pauline.
Today I'm reading in solidarity for Candlelight, Chile, and Lithuania.
Thank you. What a combination.
I sadly only have one thing prepared. I'm still trying to finish my undergrad, so that's just taking all of my life. But this is called Waiting For. My father would come home. I would hear the car pull into the garage. I miss those sounds. Since I left home, there is no sound of cars. The soft crunch of the tires rolling against the driveway. The soft pitter-patter of rain against my windowsill. As a child, I would wait eagerly for him to walk through the strong green door of our house, tumbling into his arms. Papa, Papa. I miss those days and those sounds of innocence and waiting for my father to come home. Others, maybe, are still waiting for their own fathers to come home from a silent war, fought for our supposed rights. And maybe by the time our children are grown, there will be no more silent wars to fight, no more hatred to be had. Maybe we are all still waiting by our windows.
Oops. Carol, Cutler.
solidarity with Bologna, Italy, and Veracruz, Mexico. Hope I pronounced that right.
I'm glad there's so many people here from out of town, so welcome. I live here in Charlottesville, so I'm really glad you all are here, and thank you for coming. The first poem I'm reading is called Charlottesville. There is no telling, no admitting the reptilian brain that lurks, coiling, showing fangs, a copperhead strike. Yet layered on top is the limbic brain, then cerebral cortex, and the wiser frontal lobe sits as a crown, a caring consciousness. Those evolutionary layers make all the difference unless we are surrounded by threat or insult, or mistakenly think we are, the quantum possibility. We examine our plight and the plight of others. There is no telling the difference we would make, whether the need is for restraint, resolve, or rescue. The next poem starts with what we can't control and ends with what we can. And it's called Spaces in Between. The spaces between stars, the space between thoughts, the resting potential of a neuron, the pause before inhalation, the space before the lub of heartbeat, the silent sweep of eyelash, the space in genetic material that isn't A, T, G, or C, the pause after the firefly's light, the rest in a musical score, the point of cresting wave, the something between the before and after is a calm that generates power. The rest, pauses, and nothings are spaces that hold potential. And any dentist will tell you to floss the space between your teeth.
And let's welcome Michele Riedell.
Good evening. I'm reading in solidarity. Okay.
I've had some of those.
Parliament,
I know, you're doing fine.
okay, Netherlands, and Albany, New York. Thank you. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here, all the way from Richmond. Okay, so I was undecided about how to title this, and I decided just to be honest. While waiting for my nails to dry. Reclining in an empty chair like a bent-over palm, the young Asian woman leans, awaiting the next client. Leg kicking softly, head odd-angled, staring at nothing and sleeping. September creeps through as the customer doorbell rings. Ladies don't come. Their nails flake off the remains of summer's hard-baked sands from lakefront properties. She shifts, dreaming of a far-away place where family lives. Imagining rice fields tucked far away where her tiny feet once ran through a needle-thin pathway. She becomes disillusioned. while melancholy mood music gently rocks her till her lashes flicker and close once more. My second poem is titled Virginia Diner 12 O'Clock Brunch. In his crisp collared white shirt, he sits outside waiting for his seat, next to his grandmother, her skin wrinkled like fried chicken. He dreams of mashed potatoes, gravy, and peanut pie. What a handsome young man your son has grown to be, remark Sunday neighbors in their flossy hats and starchy dresses, full of gospel and goodwill. He unties his tie and splays out teenage legs with a wide smile. The smell of black-eyed peas and tomatoes waft out every time the door swings open. Grandma remembers a harder time when barriers of racial hostility and ignorance wore thick into the ley lines of the earth. Her sadness masked and buried. The reality of injustices suffered, diffused as the grease that poured into the gutters of this town's memory. She small talks, smiles, and proudly nods, leaning into the dark hickory of her cane. She falls into a gentle hum, rocking the air into a lullaby, as sweet as corn spoon bread, soothing her memory, bringing a gentle joy, a hope for the future. Thank you.
Cari. Let's welcome Cari Still.
Como, Italy, and Pikeville, Kentucky. First thing I'd like to say is this is nice. Second thing I'd like to say is I don't have my glasses.
We love you, Cari.
At least they're not going to try.
Isn't that a great poem?
Yeah.
I think you can send that one to Rattle.
I will say this though, I try to work on eye contact, so we had that already. That was what happened just here. All right.
Do you prefer not to be photographed?
Oh no, I don't mind.
Okay.
What's the worst that can happen?
Nothing.
Right? Okay. All right, so tell me guys, short or long first?
You do it. You can.
All right, we'll do the long one first. Oh. There is a compulsive kind of thing. Okay. No reason. In this moment, my catatonic serves up in statuary a vision in my mind. I wade out, fully clothed, into the river, conscientious to set down all I carry. I brave depths, currents, to arrive a rock. I sit, stationary, statuary. Slithering, silent serpents swim, moving with ambition. Yet my phobia, catatonic too. The largest arrives and circles, writhes until perched on my shoulder, witnessing, engulfing minions. Trumpeting geese procure my release, nestle close, reassuring. Remaining transfixed, their warmth does not transmit, as honking provides no comfort. Splashing clatter, the grizzly shatters the peaceful geese entreaties. Trumpeting retreat, wings flap, hearts beat, make way, the ruler of the forest. Catatonia persists, no evidence I exist, save a motionless shell. The grizzly splashing in, shakes off, moves close, encompassing. In the embrace, only then I face the crystalline moment within. Life returns. I lean back, sink in, weeping, knowing, no one on shore witnessing. So that was a long one. Okay. Force. I am a disturbance in the force. Cari. Still a force in the disturbance. I carry the force disturbance. Still a disturbance. I force carry in the am. Can I force the disturbance too, to leave me still with its force, in silence, in me, in the eyes of another, as the pieces are forced into place, painting pictures of other time on this space? Still, can I carry and still the force alone? Can I carry still?
Thank you, Cari. How'd that get back in there? Kathy Phillips. Kathy, are you here? Nope. Bill. Prindle.
I do have my glasses. And I'm speaking today in solidarity with Cairo, Egypt, and Souderton, PA, where I have some relatives.
How about that?
How about that? Actually,
I live near there.
I have a high school exchange student friend who lives in Cairo. So friends in both places. So some of you may have seen this latest Vietnam documentary.
Yeah.
So it's a form of PTSD therapy. For me, I came of age 1968. So I've been reliving that year various times since. I just went through it again. So this is called, What About the Year I Turned 18? What about that James Earl Ray, that murderer of Martin Luther King? And how about that LBJ, stepping down just a few days before? How do you like that? What about those plucky Vietnamese unleashing hell on a holiday? Tet, they say. And how about them proud Americans not admitting they were losing a war? What about that June? What about that Bobby Kennedy killed just before my graduation? And how about that light fading from his eyes on that hard hotel kitchen floor? What about that speech, that valedictory I was supposed to give? What about learning how to live before learning how to make a living? What about that first failed raid on the inarticulate? What about that shabby equipment, always unable to find words for that moment? What about Dick Daley and the Chicago Pigs and Tricky Dick and the best musicians overdosing and the rest of us descending into that numbness, not knowing what it was? What about that? How about it? What was it? Who was I then and who am I now? What about the best of us, once again, lacking all conviction? What about the worst, even fuller of passionate intensity, torches on our grounds, killing us with their muscle cars on our streets? And how about that fat pumpkinhead cartoon making Nixon look like an honorable man? What about them skinheads spewing the hatred our fathers fought that we would be spared? How about it, America? What about that shadow problem? What about that denial problem? How about that projection problem, your blaming of the other? How about it, you righteous dudes? What about those Russian hackers learning that sliming Hillary made better money, whipping resentment, making democracy smell bad? What about that, Vlad? What about that, Don? How about that internet thing whipping up resentment like so much barbecue sauce, mixed with that gasoline tossed on those charring corpses? What about that, my man? How about that? How about that red meat for the resentful? Red meat for men who will not eat that same old shadow. How about that half century of not learning a thing? How about it? How about we admit it, America? How about that? It got me worked up. And the second one is more about what happened in Charlottesville last month. It's written on my front porch in Flavanna County, so it's a little quieter. It's called The Waning Moon We Trust with Our Lives. At dusk, the trees, so brilliant green in the western sun, merge back into the dark again. Some young male's machine shoots its backfires down the frontage road, spooking the mares again. Shadows flaring over the fence line, spreading that terror across the county as in the days of the Klan, whose ghosts try yet again, really, yet again, to stack up their fear like depression dams against this innocent river, this implacable water carrying the Lovings, the Kings, and the Merediths and Evers rolling down as a mighty stream, until justice is only the silence falling again over the land when the torches go back to their caves again, until now when the herd grazes again under the waning moon that we trust with our lives to rise again.
Let's welcome our next reader, Lesley.
I read in solidarity with Sucre, Bolivia, and Missoula, Montana. Thank you, everybody. These readings have been great, and thank you so much to Polly for pulling this together. First poem is from my most recent collection, Radioland. It's called Reparations, and it refers to one of the dreadful things in Virginia history that many of you will know about, the Forced Sterilization Act from the 1920s, in which people were targeted for racial reasons, but also other reasons for and forced to be sterilized. So it also quotes from a circuit court ruling from Amherst County. When pinprick holes allow air to escape, boiling eggs cheep like chicks. When a cold, blurry mouse dashes from the shadow under the dishwasher to the shadow under the fridge, the cat shudders, streaks upstairs, mourns under the bed. When the pilot light in the furnace dies, every radiator clicks with disappointment, begins to cool, to fall asleep. It's a dangerous world. In your blood, right now, a cell turns bad, converts its neighbors to badness. A teenager waits for his mother to shuffle to work, gloves, keys, weight, coffee, then reaches to the closet shelf for her gun. The clock radio mutters about eugenics in Virginia, forced sterilization of defective persons, whether feeble-minded or racially impure, collected in mountain sweeps or just trusting the wrong doctor. 8,000 operations until 1979. The legislature says it is so sorry. Audio clip of a black veteran. He and his wife wanted children, he says, before sobs tear his voice into noise. Ignorance warms you. Sun streaming in, honey dissolved in tea. Pleasant, but winter tends to straggle behind or move in under the floorboards. The skull swarms with vermin. Silence swells, deformed. The shell looks sound, a bland, pebbly brightness in the hand, but what will it cry when the heat is on? So one of the problematic monuments in my part of Virginia is in the Lee Chapel. I teach at Washington and Lee University. So this poem is titled Recumbently by Edward Valentine, and it refers to a statue that's a couple hundred yards from my office.
And where in Virginia are you?
Oh, Lexington, Virginia. So, yeah. And there is a bad word in this poem, but it's my daughter's fault. Afflicted with frosty dreams, the marble man reclines but keeps a hold on his saber. Notice the clenched muscle above blanched brows. Is appalled, maybe, by my fair daughter's skimpy tank or the fuck she mutters just at the threshold of the docent's vigilance. Senses a chill, now the chamber's stripped of flags. A dreadful dust web runs from nose tip down to mustache bristle, but he still wears boots, pretending to rest, that blankets the whitest of lies. I have one more short one, if that's all right.
Yes, oh yes.
This is called, I've been writing a lot of spells and invocations lately. This one is called All-Purpose Spell for Banishment. And I have 2 blank spaces in the poem that you can mentally fill in with whosever name you like. A pox on blank and the gerrymander he rode in on. Expel, export, exile him while we waft sage smoke around. At this 0 hour, as our wombs contract under the moon, cast him out, groper, loomer, cheater, rapist, harassing mogul, bully, frilled narcissus of a boss. Evict without visa, dissolve his assets and social media accounts. Let there be no comb-over strays stranded on sofa backs, no despotic perfume. Erase his name even from rumor, from amygdala. Remove all dimples left in moss by cloven loafer. There is no blank. There never was. As the last syllable of this incantation sounds, it breaks over us how light we feel, like lemon mousse in a silver dish on an early spring morning before the leaves grow in. Each cell of foam trapping nothing but sugar and sunshine. On our tongues, only spit. Thank you.
Yay! Are you at a stop and start?
I started it up again.
Okay, you are our next reader.
Really? Okay. I wonder why you were pausing there, lady.
you rather wait, Tom?
I'm okay.
Yes, you are.
Just have to, whoops.
And you are welcome to visit the refreshment table at any time you want. You're not going to here. It's there for you.
So I'll be reading in solidarity with Sicily and Little Rock, Alaska.
Arkansas.
AK? Is that? Oh, okay.
Little Rock. Little Rock.
Little Rock, Arkansas. But what is AK is?
Arkansas.
I thought it was Alaska.
Yeah.
Okay. My bad.
Alaska and
So, so there was lots of material to work with this year since last fall, and I spent a lot of time trying to find something positive to say, and it wasn't that easy. But so I'll start with a poem that's at the entrance of the UN building, written by Sadia Shirazi, a 12th century Iranian poet. It's called Beni Adam. The children of humanity are each other's limbs that share an origin in their creator. When one limb passes its days in pain, the other limbs cannot remain easy. You who feel no pain at the suffering of others, it is not fitting for you to be called human. And so if recently Trump, of course, was at the UN giving his speech, and he managed to insult most of our allies, and certainly the Iranians, and wants to pull out of the treaty to which many of our best allies have signed, and belong to the nuclear treaty. And so that's one reason why I picked that poem. This poem I wrote recently. It was inspired by a transformer blowing up in back of our house. It was back in March, and so our aging infrastructure shorted out and sent all the voltage in our neighborhood into our house, and blew out our plumbing and set our dryer on fire. And I found out the next day that Trump had been tweeting at 3 a.m. in the morning. So that sort of gave me the idea for this poem. Tweety lets one out. At 3 a.m., Tweety let one out, and it took up all the bandwidth, and the lines overloaded. They glowed red between the telephone poles like toaster wires, expanding and stretching, lowering until they touched the road, threatening to burn up the neighborhood. Transformers exploded and showered sparks. Cables split open and writhed like snakes on the ground, spitting fire, vomiting horrors, screaming in a language we do not know, of half-formed tweets and misdirection, coalescence of greed and bigotry, self-love like coitus of Ayn Rand at her mirror. The glow of melting wire spread down the street, and fire trucks came. Firemen gawked in amazement, unable to do anything. Block after block of distribution boxes burst into flames, cell towers fell, and pancake collapse. At sunrise, the communications infrastructure was gone. It had melted away. When the transient voltages were dissipated, there was not one case of tinnitus in town. The hum of the universe could be heard once more. And the next poem was inspired by Dick Cheney. When he was in office, he got an act passed that's often referred to as the Halliburton loophole, and it excludes fracking from the Safe Drinking Water Act. The horsemen are riding, snakes hang in the trees, the boughs are bending and break in the wind. The sky's flashing lightning. There's ozone in the air. Get back from the windows. It's safer there. There are earthquakes in New Madrid, Azle and Fort Worth. Chimneys crumble and fall to the floor. The water's burning in the kitchen sink, while cattle are dying from wells that went bad. The earth is crying, her tears rain down, as Nephilim are walking on her holy ground. The earth's pores are bleeding from the living clay. Goliath is drinking its lifeblood away. The land has been taken without legal grounds. Pipelines encroach the edge of our towns. Money can't bring back what they've stolen away by Halliburton loopholes and eminent domain. This is a very short one, Time Shadow. There's a shadow in the doorway. Invite the stranger in. Let go the moment so another can begin. Memories of past transgressions will ebb and die away to the brush of here and now as we make our way today. Let go the moment, clean away the illusions of the past. In their dissolution, we will grow like flowers in the field, returning from winter to bloom again. Thank you.
Welcome, Fred Wilbur.
Where's your pot?
Oh, Fred.
Dusseldorf, Germany, and Rochester, New York. I sing for thee. Scars. A scab fell off today, the size of an olive leaf, leaving a brand that owns you, as the accident report implies. It is not a badge you souvenir or cherish the way you scrapbook a wedding, not a tattooed rose or a spiritual reminder, but it is the first responder, a triage that saves a bleed out, perhaps, and then disappears unthanked, a stranger whose compassion you squander. Scars are everywhere by chance violence or human ignorance and anger. We show ours to others embellished with fictions and nonchalance. These days made nearly extinct by invisible sutures and skilled hands, scars are now mental and suddenly appear as uninvited guests to take hostage our promising futures. Anymore. We don't put ripples into window glass anymore. The beckoning landscape, the bird's flight now smoothed out. Switchbacks of moral choice are GPSed as Robert Frost never conceived. We used to drive for miles with turn signal blinking, U-turn back to roads missed, unmapped, less traveled. We don't see scarecrows in cornfields anymore, each tassel top chemical to dissuade pests. And in protest, free speech shows up with a gun. The ground is littered with campaign buttons of worthy but defeated candidates. Silence isn't noticed much anymore. Too many ringtones, beeps and bling, seepage from earbuds, drones overhead, distractions to the mind's ease. We don't believe in wisdom anymore. Everything digitalized, Googled, too easy. Our compassion is granted by proxy. No pages with sincere lament anymore. Opinions bully us, greed and power rule. But if we fear, we are not free anymore. Well, I think this is a little more positive note here. Among stones. Clearing the crumbling stone wall of creeper tree roots, robbing remnants to use elsewhere, I find a Lang Brothers whiskey bottle spirited away by some veteran drinker half a century ago. In shining shatters of porcelain, nuggets of obsolete iron, the barley brown survivor is without chip or crack. It has resisted the stone's nudge and settling as they became the wild scrum they are. In a secret cranny, as walls are supposed to give protection, separating this from that, it long ago gave up man's desperate need and misplaced desire. These scattered stones are a poor memorial for this dead soldier, as I see in ruin a just beauty emptied of belief. So I place it on the boulder I cannot budge, for the sun to fill it again with glow, a beacon of comfort amid a slyly shifting world.
Thank you, Fred. Beautiful. Thank you. Ah, my cup runs over. I'm getting my poetry fix. Let's welcome Judith Greene.
All righty. Is that it? Okay. Are we going to get to hear you read, Miss Pauline?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Belgrade, Serbia, and East Hampton, Massachusetts. Is that where Smith College is? Anybody know?
It's not far.
It's not far. Okay. Well, for all the Smithies. I'm Judith, and I wasn't sure how this works. So this is in solidarity. This first poem is in solidarity. We're moving. Is in for the voiceless, for children, all kinds of children, trafficked children, children that get abused, children that get abandoned, children that don't have parents. So here we go. Air of glass. The rain wipes her dripping nose, her soft ears on the roof and window glass all night. In the morning's pale meadow light, a swash of cold stills the soft patter. Sluicing waters pleat the wind. Cold spindles tighten the earth. Her breath stole. I hear the snap of air wrists. Boots in glass sand, my ears float into the sun's ice tones, the pines, her needles dipped in liquid glass. Each lime green crystalline tine demanding the light's best work. Above, in the air glass, rope-knot fingers offer glazed apples, trilling ice syrup beads, each glass pearl stilled. The air its table. Inside, under yellow plastic coat, beneath wools and cottons, is cold bone. My bone. Deep in foamed sponge marrow, I hear child small, her ice tongue, tangled in deaf glass, where she buried with thumbs the found air of knowing, of once knowing. Is there a lung tender, a breath warm? Where? That will put the glass away in cupboards, will unbound the ice world, let the pine, the apple's rope-knot fingers, the glass child bend and breathe. All right. All right. I came here from Dallas, Texas, the city, and I moved to the country. And no one told me what y'all have in the hills out here. And there's a lot going on in the hills. And first they said there were bear, and I was like, I don't need bear out here. It was 150 years ago. You're just trying to scare the city slicker here. But here we go. Tick House. Will it kill their amateur nations? Their breathing, sucking this bald-kneed winter? Will it kill? Where in this drape of cold are they? Their tingling tick-tongues sucking a dough and the possum knocking at night under the bathroom floor like a door that opens my blood, its hot, furious flowers. Will it stop black beads crawling up the wet cereal box of my body, scuttling my hair threads to suck the root bulbs. These cusped days of frost. My face a bell, the palsied flesh sliding off bone, the skin red polka spotted like a toy horse. I smell their corkscrews banging in my blood. Can't even donate it to the Red Cross. I want to give it away, take it downtown to the Center for Sleep. But it's mine, this exotic darkening fluid, mine and the ticks. In the bathroom sink, I run water and write on it. In the water paper, nothing stays, nothing keeps, but the ticks clicking in my blood. No! You Lyme literate doctors, your centers for tick-borne diseases, the thousands of green money I gave to get sicker. There is a way. White ozone will flame dark blood fields, knife the tick clicks. This blood will shine like Godiva foil. Thank you.
Let's welcome Mara Robbins. Yeah, who drove over the mountains.
Yes.
To be here with us.
Give me 13 seconds.
Take your time. And Mara, who also, you're the launcher of the Poets Against Pipelines.
Oh, cool. Yes. Is that? Oh, I have it backwards. Because I did really good with everybody else. There we go.
Don't worry. Take your time.
All right. I've got all my props and... Hi, everybody. I am reading in solidarity with Ashland, Oregon, and a name I'm really not sure how to pronounce, Georgia. Tbilisi. Tbilisi, Georgia. Never heard of it.
Not Georgia on this continent, the other Georgia.
Okay, so I like interactive stuff, and we have certainly not had the situation in Floyd County that you have had in Charlottesville. We've had a little petri dish microcosm of it, encapsulated by a rally and ride for Confederate pride after a couple of hateful horsemen rode into town and a few weeks before waving their flags. So we had an event, yes, in Floyd, we had an event called Show Up for Love for Floyd.
You didn't tell us, Polly, what was really going to happen.
Yeah, right? People taking their t-shirts off right and left. Look, but I have another one on here. T-shirt poetry activism. So I invited everybody to wear hearts to be part of this event, which we showed up for like lots of different things. Now, I didn't ask everybody to wear hearts on their sleeves, but people took it upon themselves to like put hearts on their sleeves, and I somehow did not get any hearts on my sleeve, and I decided it was because I needed the poets to put the hearts on my sleeves. So if you guys would be so kind as to, I have two Sharpie markers here, the broad one is probably going to be better, to put some hearts on my sleeve while I'm reading, I would be greatly appreciative. The first poem is called After the Revolution, the Groceries. On Saturday, the streets were flanked with riot gear. Riot gear full of rioters who would not riot unless rioted. No, wait, the rioters were on the sidewalks. That's still legal, riot? Riot this. The riot's in your mind. How do we remember conviction when what's rioting belief could be its own riot? By believing? By Tuesday, we believe that believing in riots ruins the rest, so we rest for a minute, go to meetings, and stop by the store afterwards for milk and cat food. We talk in the aisles about the riot we barely believe in anymore. Is there a war? Were there snipers on the sidelines? What's relevant? Agenda folded into our pockets, we make our way through the rest of the hurricane to our keys. It's a long way through a few more conversations. We would not shoot at you, probably since we do not own a gun. We learned to aim, but never once yelled, "Fire!" Sling our words over our shoulder because truths, like groceries, are significant to resist. There's milk for the morning, hungry cats. Scooping the riot into a bucket, we trudge down to empty it over the fence. What lengths will it take to reach empathy? We feel for them, sometimes. They might feel for us, somewhere under the seat where the keys fell. Wow. This is a poem called Change for a Song of Heart. And for those of you who like forms, it's a glossa. This is for you, Beth. And it opens with an epigram by Beth Weaver Kreider. Bless this whole chaotic, messy world, all these proud, these tragic, these hopeful, shameful, wounded, healing hearts. Slip inside the healing when you can. A mess of reconstruction before building a newer, brighter reason to keep offering your heart to those who still don't know how to hold a fraction of the struggle you have seen. Thinking that an unfurled flag's enough to wave and strike anew these old, old formulas for change. When I reconcile this grief still curled, I'll bless this whole chaotic, messy world. I'll sleep under the comfort it can bring and listen for new lyrics to the song. I know it like my fingerprints, which is to say, identifying me, and each small spiral loosening my palm. The tune's the same. Translation is traumatic. How to build when hammers are for danger, how to warn for what will overcome. We'll weave somehow ancestral fabric with all those proud, those tragic moments that have shaped us all. I listen when I can to hear you breathing. I take a breath and sing when I can sing. Sometimes hope is given or it's taken somewhere far beyond this broken call. Such piercing brings me solace when I'm able to see past lost tradition and still bring the light of free expression into darkness, dark thoughts of the moment to the table. The yearning of these hopeful, shameful mornings when the harmony is lost brings urgency to empathy, reveals a rhythm lacking yesterday. We shall not be moved becomes you shall be removed. What we might finish, first we need to start. An industry threatening our waters, it shall be removed. Substitute anything that might support and sanctify the part where we bless our wounded, healing hearts. Got me kicked out of 2 out of 3 DEQ hearings. It's a tiny little, sort of innocuous poem, I would say, by May Sarton. I picked it because it was short and I had important comments to give. But, you know, it was threatening to the DEQ in regards. The DEQ is the Department of Environmental Quality, and they are currently responsible for approving the 401 water certifications for the Atlantic Coast Pipeline and the Mountain Valley Pipeline. And if they deny those certifications, the pipeline can't be built. So we're really hoping that they do the right thing, given that you can't build these pipelines safely. And this was One of the things that got me kicked out was this empty glass of water that was in Farmville. The first time I went a little bit over, kind of like I'm doing now. So, this is a glass of water. Here is a glass of water. Glass of Water by May Sarton. Here is a glass of water from my well. It tastes of rock and root and earth and rain. It is the best I have. My only spell, and it is cold and better than champagne. Perhaps someone shall pass this house one day to drink and sit a spell, go on his way. Someone in dark despair, as once I was, when I drank down cold water from a glass, drank a transparent health to keep me sane before the bitter mood had gone again. Thank you. As an organizer and an activist, I believe poetry needs to be a part of all of this. So if any of you have any ideas, let me know, or get my email address from Pauline with my permission to share it, because we poets, we need to use our voices to make change. Thank you, Pauline.
Patsy. So snug. Thank you, Bridget.
I'm not contagious. This is 6 weeks of allergies. In solidarity with Macedonia and Orange, Massachusetts. Bus stop. A one-legged vet leans at the curb, similar to grimy, mutilated plastic caught in the gutter. No one cares to clean up. Mother and kids huddle, shaped into incognito cardboard, beaten flat for trash under the nearby bridge, waiting, just out of sight, just in case. Cigarette fibers smashed, faceless all around her, tell her story. She clutches a stuffed bag to calm the hot panic rising in her veins, relentless as addiction. Amidst broken glass, the cheap life sediment waits for a ride anywhere but here, where each knows the way too well. Charlottesville says no to hate. Fired up from Friday's, cough drop is getting in my way. Charlottesville says no to hate. Fired up from Friday's court victory, alt-right cracker Kessler joined hundreds more tiki tortures at night to Jefferson's statue, the slave owner president who legitimized them in their eyes. Last-minute counter-protesters rallied round the statue, became welcome targets for the Unite the Right ragers, armed with clubs and pepper spray. More locals were trapped at a nearby interfaith peace service, afraid to leave their sacrosanct rabbit hole for hours until the cops restored peace. Both groups were drawn to Thomas Jefferson, the apostle of democracy, the public servant and father of the Declaration of Independence, who proclaimed equality for all. The private man who believed blacks would never be as smart as whites, who used his enslaved to build his Monticello and his UVA, who used his enslaved Sally to bear his children. Like Jefferson, Charlottesville is a public liberal in the polls, but with deep ties to a racist past, pro-slavery in the Civil War, pro-Klan at the 20 statues dedication, pro-segregation in the 60s as an NAACP test site. My biracial skin sensitizes me to the white that spreads like southern soft cheese over the town and university, so you cannot see what you're eating, cannot sense what you're tasting. Whites gather with whites at the restaurants, the arts, the jobs. Blacks gather with blacks, Hispanics with Hispanics. Foods on the same plate don't touch, all polite and careful. The richer whites from Old South families are on a whole other buffet, much like the country. Saturday morning sunrise interfaith service at First Baptist spilled silently down the streets to Lee, now Emancipation Park, to the heavily gunned men and women infesting the tight space. Verbal threats and chants exploded into violence when a white supremacist hurled urine-scented brown liquid, airborne water bottles, screaming streams of pepper spray, the air thick with tear gas led to the governor's state of emergency, as if wild animals can back away from a fight. He was dead wrong. Many Unite the Right ran an angry gauntlet to comply with the governor, get away, grab a fallback position, to regroup, not to surrender. Like a den of snakes recoiled. To McIntyre Park, where headliner Spencer, Enoch, and Duke relit the charge, touted Trump's support to take white America back. A disturbed hornet's nest of counter-protesters surged downtown arteries, one large group onto 4th Street, where James Alex Fields Jr., 20, from Maumee, Ohio, drove a Dodge Challenger into them, killing Heather Heyer, 32, injuring 19 more. Barely a mournful breath when 2 more dead from a copter crash. State Troopers Cullen and Bates, who'd been monitoring the bloodshed. Against whites-only terrorism, an imperfect but unbroken Charlottesville rallied from all genders, all ages, all skin tones. Sunday morning, the message painted by students on UVA's Beta Bridge underscored unity at all costs. Hate has no place here. We choose love. As a 70-year-old, I chose to march in the Women's March against T-Rump in January. And so this poem came out of that experience, and it was put in the New York Times in January. Life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. That's from Aeneas Nin. It's called One. One ear hears another voice. One hand touches a stranger's. One foot follows more. One common trauma bubbles into one boiling effort. The masses in one scalded demise by the silvered spoons, every one. One emboldens one soft-spoken who encourages one considered broken to come. One elder listens to one young, who brings one outed into the wrong. One persuades her almond-eyed friend afar. That one wins over one slightly inky sister, who hooks one mixed-up stranger until one earthen vessel lifts us all as one.
Thank you, Patsy. John Phillips, welcome.
Okay, so let me adjust this. Patsy is a
Excuse
wee
me?
little bit shorter than me, right?
You know I'm talking Filipino, you know that, right?
So today I'm reading in solidarity with Buffalo, New York, and Birkirkara, Malta. And I would just like to thank all the poets and especially Polly for putting this one on. So I'm going to read two shorter poems today. And the first is a poem that's somewhat about the environment. It's called The Boat Wasn't Very Big. The boat wasn't very big. Remember that time we were led far out into the bay by a guide who wore detrivores and dead zones, who said life as lived today was unsustainable. We imagined clouds of people finding solutions. We were boys. And I kind of got a sense that there'd be a lot of protest poems read today, which is great. And this is, in part, kind of a protest poem. And the title is a mashup of two 20th century writers who were also lovers. It's called A Thread of Descent in the Saxophone Days Galaxy. A Thread of Descent in the Saxophone Days Galaxy. The ethics of gathering is the ethics of resistance. Confrontation is life. A gathering survives by resisting the forecast. It's how solidarity walks and talks. But ever present is, even as the row houses talk up unity's position, an impulse to disband. Competing interests are hard to ignore. That nothing is ineffective is also true. Chance, quiet. Fulfillment is finite. What's now must be lived to death. Thank you, that's it.
Thank you, John. Mariana, while you're up.
Yeah. So I'm going to get your help with my first poem. This is an experiment. We'll see how it goes. But I'm going to let everybody give at least one page of poetry. I don't know, you may need more than one because I'm not sure they're going to go all the way around. And I'm going to ask your help.
Bless you.
So, oh, this is so exciting. So if you'll take these, that's down. And I'll just make sure I've got my copy. Yep. Okay, so, and find your highlighted place, and maybe look at the words just before your highlighted place so you'll know when it's your turn, because these are random. And I think we're going to have to do this twice. I think everybody's going to get 2 pages. So, for you, yeah, and then I'm going to start So keep passing them around if you have extras. I'll pass some more because you're gonna need to have two, or it won't work. And while those are passing around, I'll read another one just so you kind of get some of those. So first I'll find out who I'm reading for. So I am reading in solidarity with Debrecen, Hungary, or I guess I said that right, and San Antonio, Texas. I know how to say San Antonio anyway. So I'll read from a chapbook that's coming out in February, and I hope I'm allowed to say that their sign-ups for advanced sales are in the back of the room. And the chapbook is a collection that weaves together spirituals, actual letters from the Civil War era written to my ancestors, and my original poetry. They're not always in every poem, but this poem is an example where I've brought all three elements into the poem. And it's called Free as a Bird. Thorn deep, 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 down where the frog sounds, night sounds, black on black, tangle deep, cannot find you, down to the berry-banked waters, wave away, descent of night. Armistead ran away and went with the Yankees as Sherman's army was returning through here to Memphis, and I think we have others that will go yet if they remain long in Memphis. A great many have gone from here. They are dying by the hundreds with smallpox and other diseases. They know it, but still they go. They wish to know for themselves what it is to be free as a bird. Many thousand gone, but I can see your silhouettes descending still, shadows by the hundreds, wordlessly descending, heads bent as though in prayer, processing downward, yet your shadows rise into that lacerating sanctuary to which we are all bound. Okay, let's try this. So this poem, like many of the poems that we've heard today, this one is called The Events of Last Summer. And I'm going to start with the opening line, and then if you will just find your highlighted place, kind of read along, and we'll see if this works, okay? The Events of Last Summer. Water over. People over.
Hoods of cars.
Streets. Feet.
Rain.
Blood. What is that over the sun?
Flowed.
The moon.
Flowers.
The moon, flow, flowers. Okay, we'll go back to that. Can we go back to what is over the sun again?
The moon.
Flowed. Flowers. Downpour. Not.
Can't. Do we have here? Can you find here?
Here.
Totality.
What is that over under the car?
Our babysitter's legs.
Only. Hate.
With.
Hate. Can.
Hate.
Possibly.
Flow.
Flow of.
Torchlight.
Candlelight.
Gone.
Can.
Possibly.
When.
Went pretty well. We're going to do one more, okay? It was an experiment.
No, let's do it again.
You want to try one more time? Okay, let's do it. Okay. All right. All right, that was just a practice, yeah. Okay. The events of last summer. Water over.
People over.
Hoods of cars.
Streets.
Feet.
Rain.
Blood. What is that over the sun? The moon.
Flowed. Flowers.
Downpour.
Not.
Can't. Here.
Totality.
What is that under the car?
Our babysitter's legs.
Only. Hate.
With.
Hate. Can.
Hate.
Possibly.
Flow of.
Torchlight.
Candlelight.
Gone.
And.
Possibly.
When.
All right. It worked. Yay. Okay. One more.
Took a few minutes.
Yeah, thank you for trying it twice. I said it was an experiment, but
It happened to all of us, so I thought all of us should read it. This poem is called Never. In the never only of the once more night, though South Sudan is new, Syria's not old. In the elsewhere of the only other, those explosions could be women. In the never-ever province, fast-dashed lines from machine gun tracers right across the starry sky. In the other, elsewhere, somewhere, dripping children pass in carts, where the only's never willing and the willing always wait. No one dares retrieve their parents from the ever night. Here in our now own only never evers scrawled on schoolyard walls.
Thank you, Mariana. George Phillips. Welcome.
This is in honor of Leeds, England, and Austin, Texas. I have Parkinson's disease, so if I start to shake, don't worry, it's probably an earthquake. It's not something that's...
We love you, George.
This is about my father. I'm a what do you call it? Military brat. Thank you. And
Could you put the mic just a little closer to you somehow?
sorry, it always sounds like I'm speaking loudly, and I'm not, am I?
Thank you.
This is called Casualty. He crawled ashore on Normandy Beach, kept the trucks rolling into seared, crumpled cities, nearly died in an artillery barrage, and never spoke a word of it, except in the kitchen with old companions, whispering shared terror. I picture him amidst the rubble heaps, deploying convoys of food, medicine, wood, and steel, down ruined roads, so lives could heal and communities rebuild. He came home finally to an angry wife and children who mistook a companion for their father. Struggled in darkness like legions of others. He wrestled painful, unrelenting memories. For the first time in his life, he retreated, surrendered, imploded. He fathered one more son who knew him only as a grim face, seldom seen, unavailable, a joyless messenger of relocation, lost friends in family chaos. The redemption given to others so many years before, purchased at the cost of himself and his own. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Joanna.
I am reading in solidarity with New Orleans, Louisiana, and Indore, India. First poem I'm going to read is from my new collection. It's called Environmental Studies. I strung my heart from the strong arms of a Joshua tree, to dry in the Mojave sun. It grew beautiful for a moment, beautiful as all the poetry in the world. The veins tightened and cracked, muscle fibers stiffened and swung ever so slightly in the rarefied air, paling against the blue of the desert sky. Sooner or later, all things in the desert turn to dust or stone and fall silent. I let my heart to drink from bleached desert ground, its fingers spread out among lonelinesses, and I sank shallowly to absorb the lesson of heat and sky. It must become harder to breathe before it becomes softer. This poem is called On the Back Page. Two bull moose, locked rack to rack like the knotted ribbon of old love letters, sunk in the slough of Unalakleet. Their forms, frozen still in battle, were unearthed weeks later under 8 inches of ice as 2 men toured the Bible camp grounds. Miles south, months before and after, a cowhide-booted doctor who farms loneliness outside Laredo is fighting the desert for the dried-out bodies of the hopeful, their morgued hearts still seeking, the rich brown of them born to dye the shallows of the Rio Grande. They too wrote love letters, found folded on their bones in old jean pockets. How could they know every breath was an apology? Like the moose, no one told them where the color of our eyes goes when we die. That if we let our skins speak for themselves, they would say with their velvet tongues that love is a thin and slippery everything, not buried deep enough. And Pauline, because you said in your correspondence for this event that we should maybe focus on positivity and affirmation, and I feel like most of my poems are sort of cynical, sad, a little bit. I wanted to read one that is not my own, that I hope you will all find as a gift of affirmation. This is by Catherine Pierce, and it was published in Diode a little over a year ago. It's called, Let Someone Say You Are Electric. And you become electric, an eel in the best possible way, flicking light and sharp static wherever you toss your tail. The whole room spins to a stop to watch you laugh with an amaretto sour in hand. Your teeth so even, or so charmingly not. Why not try Gaelic or string theory? Why not karaoke Bohemian Rhapsody? Even your failures are arresting. Let someone say you are electric, and the world, too, becomes electric. Every streetlight humming, not with the harbinger of burnout, but with its only scarcely contained thrill. Its desire for every person moving through its yellow orb, in particular, you. Of course you. You once with the train trestle. You once with the wolfhound. You of the fascinating wrists and the boots. My God, the boots. The hawks overhead, what balletic wheeling. Your orange juice a complex equation in your mouth. Does it matter if the words never lead to a large, soft bed? Does it matter if the words were said a decade ago by someone whose middle name you've forgotten? Does it matter if you know the speaker or ever did? The words are what matters. Little diamonds in your hand. Here, you are electric. Put that diamond next to the others. Make a trail of gleaming and follow it to yourself. Thank you.
I will read a couple. And then, if you're willing, we'll take a group photograph and break. And I am reading in solidarity with Everett, Washington, and Casablanca, Morocco. Hmm? What did you say?
Of all the poetry readings and all the writer houses in the world, she's got to walk into mine. Rhyme it again, sir.
Oh, that's right, there's a microphone. Can you hear me? Is that about right? All right.
Be closer.
Get a little bit closer. Right. So I noticed just a couple weeks ago that Maxima had been who was a recipient of the Goldman Environmental Prize 2 years ago, had been attacked again. And I wrote this poem for her probably 2 years ago. It is called Her Life is Protected by a Blue Lagoon. Turn a tree upside down. Rooted world becomes the above, sky paralleled below. On the surface, weather-bleached soil holds nothing, everything in place. Roots map a once interdependent domain toppled beside an asphalt road. Formerly essential for survival, bark hosts a symbiotic union of fungus and alga. An exchange of water and nourishment, not unlike a high-altitude, biologically diverse wetland. Despite exhaustion, assaults, lawsuits, her land fenced, hut burned, potato crop destroyed by multinational mining company military contractors, Maxima's courage roots her community in defense of life and water. Halts plans for a new gold mine, draining of 4 lakes, seizure of more land. She sees risk as an honor. They had no name. 2,000 vamps, beaded and embroidered moccasin tops, adorned by hand, buttons, fur, porcupine quills, even photographs of case-numbered, murdered and missing does, Jane. Indigenous women, children, and two-spirited. Walking with our sisters on a commemorative path of red cloth, nestled amid cedar boughs, sage, canoes, tobacco, two eagle stabs, children's vamps, dedicated to those who never returned from residential boarding schools. Unforgotten sisters, mothers, aunties, daughters, cousins, wives, partners, named in a touring vision as travelers together on water, honored by their families, nations, one unified voice. Red dress, redress, an aesthetic response, and 3 snow-sculpted women, dyed red, seated palms up, facing each other, no discernible features. Walking with Our Sisters is a traveling exhibit that is curated by women, and it has traveled in Canada and in the U.S., and it does have embroidered moccasin tops, and the exhibit is installed in ceremony, and it changes whatever location it goes to. And there was also last year a snow sculpture contest on one of the Canadian reservations, and a grandmother and her granddaughter, who had had 3 female family members disappear, made 3 snow sculptures and dyed them red. And Redress is also a traveling exhibit that initiated in Canada. That's an installation of red dresses. Sometimes you have to take the storm and let it tremble you. As on the night of a wake in a distant city, as a friend on the other side of the continent accepts a diagnosis, as this basement is flooding, a large Fowler's toad on the left step, a refuge askew in chill autumn rainwater rising to plugged-in appliances on cinder blocks, and you have no boots high enough. As when a single pomegranate seed is sufficient to nourish the world. One more short one. Anipektaka, that we shall live. Winter is coming. The 6th child of Zinkala Mapiawi, Black Owl Skybird, is born alone to her mother beside the Cannonball River in a teepee. An emblem of the great womb, sheltering the ultimate act of resistance chosen by a woman who claims giving birth is her center and strength. Prayers rise with the sun. Centennials of the unseen sing sacred songs as they build fires, standing in solidarity while hundreds of protesters are arrested. Miniwikoni's placenta is buried here. Her name is Lakota, for water is life. Thank you. And it's a couple minutes after 6, so are you willing to gather for a group photo?